In challenging economic times, good financial advice is more important than it ever has been before. In this video, I want to go through the basics of financial advisors. What is an advisor? How do they get paid? And what are things that you should know and you should look for? A financial advisor is basically a one-stop shop for all of your financial needs. The advisor's main responsibilities are to understand what's going on in your life and to develop a financial plan based on your needs. It should be customized to you. A good financial advisor will develop this plan by following a three-step process. First, the advisor will ask questions to determine your financial goals. These goals include important life events, things like retirement, college, and home ownership. Then, the advisor will ask questions about your assets and your liabilities in order to determine your financial position. Finally, the advisor will combine all of this information, the financial goals, your financial position, and it will create a personalized financial plan. So that is the holistic picture of your assets, your liabilities, and what you plan to achieve. Then the financial advisor can make recommendations on how you should implement this plan. Every good advisor will use some variant of this three-step process. They might not call it the three-step process, but these are generally things that you should look for when you are in the market for financial advice. In addition to this, good financial advisors will touch base with you at least once a quarter or so, maybe a little bit less frequently or a little bit more frequently. But the idea is that these issues are always changing, and the financial plan needs to be updated to reflect that. You should always be very careful of any advisor who tries to sell you a specific investment without first asking you any questions about your financial goals and background. They need to understand your financial goals and your financial position before they can figure out what investment is right for you. That seems pretty obvious to me, at least, but it's surprisingly neglected among many of the brokerage houses and financial advisors around the country. So always be careful of someone who's just trying to sell you something blindly. Let's now move on to how financial advisors are paid. What are their fee structures? There are two major ways. They can charge a flat fee or hourly rate. So if they charge, say, $100 an hour or $150 an hour, that's one very common approach. But a more common approach is what's called a percentage of assets under management. And this is a method of payment that is used at a lot of the major banks and brokerage houses. Let's take a quick look and understand how that works. So let's say that you're managing $100,000, and the annual fee is 1%, so 1% per year. So that means that the financial advisor's total fee will be $1,000 each year. So that is how he is compensated. If the assets under management get larger, the fee, the dollar amount goes up. And if the assets under management shrink, then the financial advisor makes a little bit less money. Now, as I mentioned, this method of payment is used at a lot of big banks, and it's very important to understand because of the incentives for the financial advisor. Under this method, the quality of service provided will actually change based on the amount of money in a client's account. Let's see why. So let's go back to our first example. Our first client, number one, has $100,000. Now, as we mentioned earlier, 1% annual fee and $1,000 in annual income for the financial advisor. That's how much he's going to make. Now, let's look at a much wealthier client. Client number two has $5 million. Again, this 1% fee is still the same. But as you can see, 1% of $5 million is $50,000 in annual income. So if the financial advisor loses this second client, he is going to lose $50,000 a year. That's a huge amount of money. Obviously much more important to him than the $1,000 in annual income that he could lose by losing the $100,000 client. So as you can see, wealthier clients are going to get better service under this model, under the percentage of assets under management model. The incentives are aligned so that higher net worth clients are going to receive superior client service. So that's something to think about. It's important to understand. If you don't have a lot of money and you're going for someone with a percentage of assets under management type fee structure, be careful, because remember, their incentives are to make money, and they might not make as much money off of you, and as a result, they don't place as much value on you as a customer. So let's now move on to kickbacks. Some financial advisors receive kickbacks for selling you certain financial products. And this occurs at brokerage firms, at different sales houses. And let's explain how, let's walk through a little bit of how that works. So a financial advisor will recommend a product to a client, like a mutual fund or a structured product or a bond fund, for example. And then the client will purchase the product per the recommendation. And here's where it gets interesting. The company that manufactures the product gives a kickback, usually a percentage of the total sale, to the financial advisor as a commission. So what does this mean? Well, it's not the best situation for the client, because think about incentives again. The financial advisor has an incentive to recommend expensive products that give them the best kickback, even if it isn't ideal for the client. And that's the key point. Remember, financial advisors, they're business people. Just like everyone else in the corporate world, they're out to make some money for themselves. Now, I understand that it might not be optimal for the client, and there are some ethical issues there, but regardless, this does happen, and you should definitely try to understand if a financial advisor is receiving kickbacks, because it can affect the quality of advice that you receive. So let's now move on to something called a fee-only advisor. And the fee-only advisor is, hiring a fee-only advisor is a good way to mitigate some of these concerns. So a fee-only advisor is someone who charges on a flat fee basis, an hourly rate or a flat set fee. For example, $500 for a financial plan or $1,000 for a comprehensive financial review. He or she does not accept any commissions or kickbacks. So this gives a higher probability that you're going to get impartial advice that is tailored for you. It reduces conflicts of interest over the long run. It can also reduce the costs for you, because you're getting the products and services that are most appropriate. So even if you have to pay a little bit more up front, hiring a fee-only advisor is something you should consider, because over the long run, you might make your money back. Now, I understand that for many people, all this stuff is very complex, and it makes it hard to find good financial advisors. But this is not something you should ever settle on. A financial advisor is kind of like your quarterback for your life. Quality financial advice can be the difference between achieving your goals and falling short. You might have to retire a little bit later, or you might not be able to send your kid to college, the college of their choice. And these are unfortunate things. These are not things that you should have to give up just because you hired someone who wasn't serving your best interests. So take a little bit more time and shop for the advisor who is the best for you, who is someone that is going to serve your interests wisely. And the other thing that you should remember is be wary of style over substance. A lot of people in the financial industry are very good salespeople, but that's exactly what they are. They're salespeople. They're out to make a good commission for themselves, and that might come at a cost to you. So just because someone's flashy or can recommend a few hot stocks does not necessarily mean that they are a good financial advisor. So what should you look for in a financial advisor then? That's a really good question, and I think there are three major things. The first thing is to ask questions about their services and their general strategies. It's a very good sign if they talk about that three-step approach I mentioned earlier. That's definitely a good first step. They don't have to call it the three-step approach, but it's something to think about. Another thing is, what are their fee structures? How are they getting paid? And are they receiving any kickbacks? This will help you understand if there are conflicts of interest. Are they recommending things that are in your best interest or in their best interest? And finally, understand their qualifications. Do they have certain licenses or certifications? What are their degrees and their experience? How many years have they been in the business? What are their current clients saying about them? If you generally ask these types of questions, you can narrow down a large number of financial advisors and get a much better sense as to whether a financial advisor is going to be the best for your needs. I hope this video has helped you understand financial advisors and what an important role they can play in your life and how to go about selecting one. Thank you very much for watching, and for similar videos, please check out my website, www.kanjo.com.